On this episode of Game Shack is my 1-year review of the AtGames legendary pinball game. I'm going to ask if it still has value for money, how it's held up over the last year and a half so of use, how does it compare to a real-world pinball game, how does it compare to 4K pinball, all that and a whole bunch more coming up next. Hey everybody, welcome on back into the Game Shack. I am your host, JDV. Thanks for stopping by. As a reminder, you guys are our sponsors. So if you can give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, it would be a real big help to us. That said, I bought this unit myself and I'm not sponsored by AtGames, so the opinions I give you on this are my own. I did not send them this video or any kind of other thing like that. So hopefully you guys can rely upon this. All right, right off the bat, before I jump into the 1-year review, I did an extensive review on this game just about a year ago, which you can see here. Long and short of it is, I praise the game's flexibility, I praise the game's build quality, and I praise the amount of games, the way that you can play them on the machine. And really none of that has changed. It remains the best sub $1,000 pinball game that you can buy on the market. I built my own virtual pinball game, and it cost me about $800, and I built it shortly before I actually picked up the ALP, so I'm guessing the cost of that has gone up. So you really are getting a bargain. Right now you can get this thing, I think, for $689 on their Christmas deal, plus $100 shipping, so you're getting it for about $800 when it's all said and done with taxes and everything, depending on where you live. So right off the bat, that is a really good deal for a virtual pinball game of this caliber. In terms of the games you can get for it, like I said, there is a huge variety of them. The games that come included with the machine are actually my favorite because they are real-world tables that have a digital flair. Almost all of the other tables that you can get for this are not based on real tables, but rather they are tables built only in the virtual world. Some of them are more realistic than others. The Tato games tend to be a little bit more over the top. Space Invaders is for sure a game like that. Other games that you can get from the Zakaria packs, I don't know how many they're up to now, I think maybe 10 packs. There's some really good games in every one of those packs. They've done a good job being clever, putting at least one gem of every game into those packs, which kind of makes you have to buy all of them if you want all those gems. I wish it wasn't that way, but you can understand this is the main way that AtGames makes money after they've sold you this device, because there is no other version of this game available other than that micro version. So bottom line, this thing has been a very tough machine. It has held up very well, no problems really to report. Just watch those firmware upgrades and maybe let them sit around for a week or two before you install them. Just make sure it's something you really want. That said, I do have the latest firmware on this machine. It has worked flawlessly for me so far, knock on faux wood. So your mileage might vary, but I've had a lot of luck in terms of the build quality, and I think for the price, the build quality is actually pretty amazing. So it's a cold night out here in the shack. I thought I wanted to do a little bit more about the fact that you can play video games on this and not just pinball video games. With CoinOps X, you can get all vertical builds for this device. You can play pretty much any game that you would be able to play on a MAME device, and that goes for, well, really anything that you could play on CoinOps X. But if that wasn't cool enough, you can also play legitimately licensed games like the Activision pack that you can buy, I think, for $20 right now on sale for Christmas. And with that, not only do you get all of these really, really good licensed Activision games, including Pitfall, including River Raid, I mean, everything that you would want, I think, is pretty much in this collection. It's a great collection, and it looks fantastic, but it's also been optimized for the vertical build of this machine. So River Raid is an inherently vertically oriented type game, and boy, does it look great on this format. To me, this becomes the premier way to play this video game is on the ALP. So is there any reason not to get this game? And the answer is, it depends. And what do I mean by that? Well, it depends on how big of a pinhead you really are. Because I will just tell you this right now. I own my own real pinball game, and I found a pinball parlor in my town. And the reality is this: virtual pinball is not pinball. It's a simulacrum of pinball, but it's not pinball. But they do get pretty close. Like, I'd say that this machine is about 80% of a real pinball game. It's got the real glass, it's got the plunger, it has the sound, it has a lot of real games, it has some fake games, it has kind of everything in between, and you can be fooled. And also, if all you have is $800 or $900 to get a machine, then this is the only game in town, because pinball prices for real pinball have gone through the roof. Right now, if you want the cheapest baseline home edition Stern pinball game, it's $5,000. $499 from every single retailer I looked at, and I looked at, I think, 10 of them. None of them had any kind of used pinballs, and if you do want to pick up a used Stern, again, you're looking at $4,500, $4,200. You're looking at $4,000 for a newer, baseline, cheap as they get, real pinball game. So if you're wanting a real pinball game, these aren't going to be an answer. No virtual pinball game is, but the reality is, at least for me, it does get you about 85% down the road to feeling like you are playing real pinball, and that's really cool. It is very cool to be able to flick this thing on and I start playing Black Hole, because Black Hole is a $3,500 game that's multi-levels, that is a Gottlieb, I think, System 6 system. It means it breaks down all the time. Realistically, the only way I am ever going to play Black Hole in my home is right here. Well, besides the foibles that all V-Pins have, not just this, are there any kind of room for improvement? Is there any kind of things that AtGames can do to make this machine, or future versions of this machine, better? And I would say, yeah, there are. There are three areas that I think that they actually can address with this machine, and I'll give you a kind of a bonus thing that I think they should do going down the line. First of all, there is no real branded real-world cabinets outside of the included Gottlieb games. In other words, you are not going to be able to buy Addams Family for this. You're not going to be able to buy T2 or T3. You're not going to be able to buy Twilight Zone. You're not going to be able to play Godzilla on this game, or Mandalorian, or some of the other really big, super hot real-world pinball games, both from right now and going back in time. And I don't know if they're ever going to be. That is, to me, is actually probably the biggest weakness of this system, is the fact that you cannot really get those tables. Another weakness is that when you do want to buy tables, it is a little bit clunky. It's a little bit like the iArcade in that regard, in that once you want to put a table on, you can't just, you know, put in your passcode and say, okay, this is me, I'm JDV. Oh, I want to buy this set of games right now. Go ahead, take my money. It's not that easy. You got to buy them on their website, then come here and include the code, and or let them redeem the code and link it to your account. It's just, I want to just be able to see what the game that I want, click yes, and then start playing the game. The user interface for it is still clunky, and maybe for a lot of people, this is actually going to be the worst thing. If I want to have a party, a whole bunch of people over, pretty much I just set up one game, because it's asking too much for people who've never used AtGames products to sit down and be able to scan through the navigation system and pick their game and then go out of the game. It's kind of a mess. But I do think that this game is in kind of the sweet spot. If you don't have a whole lot of room, if you do enjoy the virtual pinball experience, or are interested in it, and also you could just buy this machine and have it be your arcade machine, period, because you can play so many of those video games, both from Activision and through CoinOps X and through AtGames' own library. They have something like 300 games that you can, you know, pick up packs for. Between that gives this thing an awful lot of flexibility, and for sure, it is, without a doubt, right now, still the best bargain in the sub 1,000 virtual pinball game. All right, well, if you like this sort of content, please give me a thumbs up on the way out the door. It really does help this channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Love each other, and until next time, I'll see you guys in the Game Shack. Mwah! More mods coming on this guy.
Be sure to visit evilgeniusentertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much, much more.